The first thing to know about the strategy document is your purpose here is to stay high level and you're strictly thinking strategically, not tactically. Now, tactically is when you're actually creating content. Strategically, you're going to be thinking, what is for this first module, it's an introduction to the course. How do you complete this course so that you are consistent with all other courses? And that's one strategic approach. One example of the strategic thinking. The other thing is, if your course has a lot of similar type of learning tasks, like explaining definitions or introducing behavior, you want to try to have a like pattern, a like strategy for each of those. Now, you might fear that this would bore learners, but they probably wouldn't even notice the fact that you're using the same strategy because your content's going to be different. So I wouldn't worry about that. Now, to complete this document, after you're busy thinking about strategically identifying like tasks across modules and coming up with a strategy that you would use for those like tasks, then when you complete this document, what you need to do is first, for each slide, start by identifying what you think, put in your words what you want to happen in the mind of the learner. So for every first slide in every first course, the learner needs to understand that this is the course about problem solving or assertiveness or team building, right? And you're going to need a header for that, and you're going to need detailed text to tell the learner what the terminal objective for this course is. And you're simply listing the objects up above. I need a slider, I need a detailed text, and that's all I need to do this, to make the learners understand that the focus of this course is this, and that the achievement goal is this. That's all you need, is a header and a detailed text. Now the second slide, and by the way, once you've identified the aha and the components that you listed the components you're going to need down below, you see this is 1A. So module 1, item 1A is a header. It applies the course standard, welcome to the XYZ course. In this case, you're actually kind of specifying content, but this is about the only place. This may be on the third slide. So you're going to say, instead of saying that this header lets the learner know what this course subject is, you're just telling them here that there's a model. Welcome to the course on whatever your course is. And then the detailed text, you're going to say, the detailed text provides the terminal objective revised for learner consumption. In other words, you're going to phrase it in a way that makes sense to the learner. On the second module, you've decided, or you have identified your aha. The learner grasps the urgency and relevance of this subject. That's what your goal is. And to do that, every slide has to have a header and a slider text. But you're going to create a scenario, you've decided, and you're going to ask a discussion question which gets them thinking about this subject. So the scenario sort of shows the problem and leads right up to the point where they need to come up with a solution for dealing with that problem, which is what this course is about. So down below, you've put these 4 items, and you're going to say 1, 2 is the slider title gets at the relevance and urgency of this learning, which is not actually true. The slide title just says what this slide's about. It's basically, you're going to say, the slide title gets learners thinking about why. Why do I need this course? Okay. And this should employ a foundation standard title. Nah, that's not true. I'm going to take that off of there. I don't know that you need a foundation standard title, but I mean, normally we say, why do I need this? You know, who needs it? Whatever. But you can put whatever you want that's going to draw people. And you might want to, your job here is to tell yourself later, when you're actually writing the content for this, what exactly you strategically want that content to do. And B, this is the text. It introduces the concept, sets up the components below, like your scenario. The purpose of this text is to introduce and set up, let's say. Instead of saying concept, that's kind of a generic phrase here I put in there as an example. But in this case, the text introduces the focus of this slide. And sets up components below. When we say set up, we mean really it points to them or lets you know what's coming in those down below, so that people know that they got to do something, even though they're right in front of them. And the third slide, well, let's see, this is still 2. So scenario is a brief story bringing relevance and urgency to this learning. I think that's a little bit vague. So let's say the scenario presents the problem. Reminiscent, let's say. How do you spell reminiscent? I'll let Google figure that out. I-C-E-N-T, that's not correct, but let's see exactly how to make it right. You can see I don't use that word very often. Reminiscent of the problem and being familiar, the kind of problem that they might think they would actually experience. It brings urgency. To the subject. Okay. So that's what we're telling ourselves. When you create a scenario, make it do that. You know, that's your job here. And this red part is to guide, to give advice, not to say the scenario is going to have this story, it's going to be taken from this or anything like that. You're not going to talk about the actual content. You're telling them, you're like the director, telling them how to do it. And then D, it says it's going to be, well, let's see, D is 2D. Learning device discussion question. Criteria depending on component. That doesn't make any sense. Who wrote that? Some bulb. Somebody who don't know nothing. That's a really stupid thing to say. Okay, I didn't do that. I'm sure I didn't. Somebody else must have. Let's see now. What we want to say is discussion question gets learners thinking about the frequency and seriousness of the subject or problem. Something like that, right? And then, you know, you'll see this rationale. I didn't talk about it before, but basically what the rationale, you've given yourself an aha. Here in the rationale, you want to say to yourself, okay, so this is our goal. If we do this, 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 and this, I think that it'll work because. Why do you think these components will result in the aha? And it might be something as simple as the title and detailed text provide a framework of information. The scenario brings it home, and then the discussion also helps them dig deeper into it. You know, Something like that. You're explaining what each part does and why you think it'll get them to that. But most important, I only want you to write that because I want you to prove that you thought it. You thought it through. Why are these components the right components to get that aha? That's the purpose of the rationale. So, back to the steps here. First step, list the items that you need in order to get the aha on that slide. Second, come down here and say what kind of advice and guidance are you going to give the person who's doing this development? It might be you, but that's important. You'll need it. Right now you're thinking strategically. At that time, they're going to be thinking tactically and be in the weeds. So you need this guidance even if it's you that's doing this. So tell yourself, give yourself the help here so that you know exactly what you're planning on doing. What do you want this device to do for the learning? Why are you doing it? What character should it have? What do you want it to accomplish? Stuff like that. But you're not talking about content. You're not going to say the story is like this and it's about a little girl who cries all the time. You're not going to go on that.